travel and tourism, I mean, as was just mentioned, is something that we all do. We all love to do, and actually, it has been growing as a global sector and industry quite aggressively. We've seen unprecedented numbers of people traveling overseas or internationally. In the 1950s, we had about 25 million people who were traveling globally, and now we are at 1.2 billion people. And this is expected really only to continue to grow, maybe to 1.8 billion is one forecast for 2030. So the other good news around this growth is that actually this growth is higher than the global GDP growth for the last 6 consecutive years. So it's clearly an opportunity area globally and for all countries, and that's one of the reasons the forum is very excited to be working on this area. From a global standpoint, the aviation, travel, and tourism industry is almost 10% of the GDP and another 10% of the jobs that are created. So from that standpoint as well, it's really a sector that has a lot to contribute to growth, to employment, and of course, along with that, to fostering development and developing tolerance among us individuals as well.
Cuba saw an influx of tourists in the mid-90s, and tourism is now the major industry in the country. People working in tourism are earning their money in foreign currencies, whereas other sectors are paid in Cuban pesos. The disparity has led to a two-tier economy, leaving Cubans outside the tourism sector at a significant disadvantage. Before the 90s, everything was state-controlled. But in an effort to diversify the economy over the past decade, the government passed a reform allowing a certain number of individuals to run their own businesses. But recently, the issuing of new licenses have been suspended to prevent overcrowding. Business owners who had initially celebrated Obama's softening of the blockade and increased American tourism are now worried about Trump's new restrictions.
Travel and tourism accounts for 10.2% of the world's GDP. That's $7.6 trillion. That's right, I said trillion. And 1 in every 10 jobs on the planet is related to the tourism industry. So it's easy to understand why every nation wants a piece of that pie, especially when those numbers are expected to continue to grow. But what happens when it becomes too much of a good thing? Venice, Italy, or Serenissima as it's been called, the Byzantine name for serene, is anything but these days. The tourists who visit Venice each year far outnumber the permanent residents, 60,000 visitors each day, as compared to the 55,000 people who call Venice home. And Venetians, who are now tired of negotiating crowds just to get to the market, continue to flee. In an effort to strike a balance between commerce and quality of life, the city's mayor says they're looking for ways to limit tourists in the city's most popular areas. Things like people counters that monitor traffic, sending out social media messages when an area has reached its saturation point, and updated tourist maps and day passes for public transportation that will take visitors to places away from the city center. Meanwhile, the mayor of Barcelona has started discussions to limit the number of their tourists who visit the city to keep it from becoming, as she says, the next Venice. It's estimated that roughly 18 million visitors stay in hotels and holiday apartments in Barcelona every year, and an additional 12 million day trippers arrive by car, train, or cruise ship. Local residents are objecting to hordes of unruly visitors and large crowds in some of the smaller and quaint neighborhoods. And the growing number of unlicensed tourist rental apartments has made rent unaffordable for some of the people who actually live there, driving them out of the city. In a move to appease residents, the mayor has proposed tourism caps, as well as a plan to ban larger groups of visitors to places like the iconic Boqueria Market at peak times.